You're listening to BENJILS Radio. For this segment, we're doing a play. I'm reading from oneactplays.com. It's called The Genius, a play in one act by Horace Holley. The following one-act play is reprinted from Read Aloud Plays, Horace Holley, New York, Mitchell Kennerly, 1916. It is now in the public domain and may therefore be performed without royalties. The characters are the boy and the man. The front porch of a small farmhouse in New England. Stone flags lead to the road. The yard is a careless, comfortable lawn with 2 or 3 old maples. It is autumn. A boy of 16 or so, carrying a paper parcel, stops hesitantly, looks in a moment, and then walks to the porch. As he stands there, a man comes out of the house. The man is in his early 40s. He stoops a little, but not from weakness. His expression is one of deep calm.
I wonder if you have seen my dog. I was going for a walk, but Rex seems to have grown tired of waiting.
Your dog? No, sir, I haven't seen him. Shall I go look?
No, never mind. He'll come back. Rex and I understand each other, and he has his little moods, like me. If you're going for a walk, it doesn't matter at all. I can go anytime. You don't live in this country?
No, sir, I live in New York. I wish I did. It's beautiful here, isn't it?
It's very beautiful to me. I love it. You may have come a long road this morning. Let's sit down.
Thank you. I'm not interfering with anything.
Bless your heart. No, indeed. What is there to interfere with? All we have is life, and this is a part of it.
I like to sit under these trees. It makes me think of the Old Testament.
That's interesting. How?
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but whenever I think of the Old Testament, I see an old man under a tree.
We want blue stripes, we want white, we want the red stripes, but that's all right. As you can see, Aquafresh has all 3. Aquafresh is for the family.
The red stripe helps fight plaque and protects gums. The white stripe has fluoride to fight decay. And there's a blue stripe for fresh breath. So Aquafresh gives 3-in-1 protection for your family.
Brush, brush, red stripe, blue stripe, white. Brush, brush, gurgle, gurgle, it's just right. Aquafresh has to be the only one with all 3. 3-in-1 protection for your family.
This is BENJILS Radio.
Pizza Hut, making it great, making it happen, making it quick, making it thin or making it thick, making it easy, making it right, tasty and cheesy, making your night, making it your way, straight to your doorway, making it fast, making it last, making it early, making it late. Pizza Hut, making it
Dine in, take away, or home delivered.
TurboGrafx 16 is about to knock video games back into the Stone Age. It's 10,000 years ago. You're a cave dude. You are carnivorous. You've got to bonk 28 stages of prehistoric bad guys to rescue your excellent-looking princess. And you've only got one weapon. Bonk's Adventure, only on the TurboGrafx 16 system.
Genuine Cheezels, a pack full of golden hits.
And we're back with BENJILS Radio.
Yes?
A man who has lived it all through, and found something real about it. And he sits there calm and strong, thinking like a tree himself, and every once in a while somebody comes along, a boy, and the boy talks to him all about himself, just as we imagine we'd like to with our fathers if they weren't so busy, or our teachers if they didn't depend so much on books, or our ministers if they weren't if we thought they would really understand. And the old man doesn't say much, maybe, but the boy goes away much stronger and happier. Yes, I understand. The Old Testament. They did get a hold of things, didn't they? What I can't understand is how nowadays people seem more grown up and competent than those men were. In a way, we do such wonderful things, skyscrapers, airplanes, and yet we aren't half so wonderful as they were in the Old Testament with their jugs and their wooden plows. I mean, we aren't near so big as the things we do, while those old fellows were so much bigger. We smile at them, but if someday one of our machines fell over on us, what would we do about it?
I wonder.
I went through a big factory just last week. One of my friend's fathers is the manager, and all I could think of was what could a fellow do who didn't like it and who didn't fit in. Nowadays, most everybody seems competent about factories or business or something like that, and they've got a hold of everything. So a fellow's got to do the same thing, or where is he?
That's the first question, certainly. Where is he? But where is he if he does do the same thing?
Why, he's with the rest, and they don't ask that question.
I'm afraid they don't. It would be interesting to be there if they should begin to ask it, wouldn't it?
Yes, I'd like to be there when some I know ask themselves, but they never will. Why should they?
Don't you mean how can they?
Yes, of course, they don't ask the question, because the big thing they are doing seems to be the answer beforehand. But it isn't, not compared with the Old Testament. So we have to ask it for ourselves, and that's why I came here.
Oh, you want to know where they are, with their power, or where they'll be without it?
Where I'll be, I hate it. But what else is there today?
Why, there's you.
But that's just it. What am I for if I can't join in? I came to you. You don't mind my talking, do you?
On the contrary.
Well, everybody I know is part of it. So how could they tell me what to do outside of it? I've been wondering about that for a year. Before then, when I was just a boy, the world seemed full of everything, but now it seems to only have one thing. That or nothing. And one day I saw a photograph somebody had cut out of a Sunday paper, and I thought to myself, there's a man who seems outside, entirely outside, and yet he has something. It wasn't all or nothing for him, and I wondered who it was. Then I found your book, with the same picture in it. You bet I read it right off. It was the first time in my life I'd ever felt power as great as skyscrapers and railroads, and yet apart from them, outside of all they mean, like the Old Testament, those poems.
You like them?
It was more than that. How can a fellow like the ocean or a snowstorm?
Is that what you thought they were like? Hold on, I'm gonna have a Tums real quick.
Those poems.
You like them?
It was more than that. How can a fellow like the ocean or a snowstorm?
Is that what you thought they were?
Why, they went off like a 14-inch gun. Not a whine about life in them, not a single regret or anything. They were wonderful. They seemed to pick up mountains and cities and toss them all about like toys. They made me feel that what I was looking for was able to... Jesus Christ. They made me feel that what I was looking for was always able to conquer what I didn't like. What is that? I don't know how to read that sentence. They made me feel that what I was looking for was able to conquer what I didn't like. I said to myself, I don't care if he does laugh at me. I'll go and ask him where all that power is. And so I came.
There's Rex now, over across the road. He's wondering who you are. He sees we are friends, and he's pretending to be jealous. Dogs are funny, aren't they? But you were speaking about my poems, and it's odd that their first criticism should come from you like this. You must be about the same age I was when I began writing. When I wanted above anything to write a book like that, and when such a book seemed to be the most impossible thing I could do, like trying to swim the Atlantic or live forever.
It seemed impossible. I should think it would be the most natural thing in the world for you, like eating dinner.
That's the wonderful thing. Not the book, but that I should have
that I should have come to write it. But who else could write it? At your age, I thought anybody could. Anybody and everybody. Jesus. At your age, I thought anybody could. Anybody and everybody except myself. Really? Really and truly. You've no idea what a useless misfit I was. But I read somewhere you had always been brilliant, even as a boy. Unfortunately, yes. That's what made it so hard for me. Shall I tell you? This is so long. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's a play, I guess. Unfortunately, yes, and that's what made it so hard for me. Shall I tell you about it? I wish you would. Brilliance. I'll tell you what that was, at least for me. I wrote several things that people called brilliant. One in particular, a little play of decadent epigram. It was acted by amateurs before an admiring select audience. That was when I was 21. From about 16 on, I had actually been miserable, physically miserable. I knew, it's like if I actually read this at least once, I would know how to actually act the lines. I'm not gonna. Anyway, I need to charge my phone. I'm going on a tangent.
Can I get a BENJILS radio?
Dry is so soft.
Speaking of dry.
I'm gasping. Right. Orange juice. Lindsay. How about cola?
Well, how about Sunny D?
Sunny D, love it. Yes.
Sunny Delight, the taste of tangerine, orange and lime, packed full of vitamins.
Any more?
Coming right up. Thanks, Mum.
So when can I move in then?
On your bike.
Sunny Delight, the great stuff kids go for all year round.
Hello?
Anthony? Oh, congratulations on your exam results.
Grandma, I failed.
You failed? What do you mean you failed?
I failed. Maths, English, physics, geography, German, woodwork, art. I failed.
You didn't pass anything?
Pottery.
Pottery? Very useful. Anthony, people will always need plates. Anything else?
And sociology.
An ology? He gets an ology and he says he's failed. You get an ology, you're a scientist.
Whether it's well done or hard luck, a phone call says a lot.
The most brilliant boys, the teachers who are wrong, they can't mark. A lot of them can't see.
British Telecom. It's you we answer to.
Mario! Mario! Mario!
He's back. All you had to do was ask. Super Mario Bros. 3 from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Did you notice anything?
Yeah. All that fizzing and melting. These skips are something else. Hey, and it got dark quick.
Skips. Snacks with special effects.
Let's keep on listening to BENJILS radio.
Okay, I'm going to start over. Brilliance. I'll tell you what that was, at least for me. I wrote several things that people called brilliant. One in particular, a little play of decadent epigram. It was acted by amateurs before an admiring select audience. That was when I was 21. From about 16 on, I had actually been miserable. Physically miserable. Oh, I read that wrong. That was when I was 21. From about 16 on, I had been acutely miserable. Physically miserable. I never knew when I wouldn't actually cave in. I felt like a bankrupt living on borrowed money. Of course, it's plain enough now, the revolt of starved nerves. I cared only for my mind, and grew only in that. And the rest of me withered up like a stalk in dry soil. So the flower drooped too, in decadent epigram. But nobody pointed out the truth of it all to me, and I had scorned to give my body a thought. People predicted a brilliant future for me. Let me read that again. People predicted a brilliant future. For me, crying inside. I don't know how to read that at all. Whatever. People predicted a brilliant future. For me, crying inside. Whatever. Then I married. I married the girl who had taken the star part in the play. According to the logic of the situation, it was inevitable. Everybody remarked how inevitable it was. A decorative girl, you know. She wanted to be the wife of a great man. Well, we didn't get along. Let me read that again. She wanted to be the wife of a great man. Well, we didn't get along. I don't know. There was an honest streak in me somewhere which hated deception. I couldn't play the part of brilliant young poet with any success. She was at me all the while to write more of the same thing, and I didn't want to. The difference between the great man I was supposed to be and the sick child I really was began to torture. I knew I oughtn't to go any further if I wanted to do anything real. There was one night we had an artistic dinner. My wife had gotten hold of a famous English poet and through him a publisher. The publisher was her real game. I drank champagne before dinner so as to be brilliant. I was, and before I realized that Nora had secured a promise from the publisher to bring out a book of plays. I remember she said it was practically finished, but it wasn't. Only the one, and I hated that. But I sat down conscientiously to write the book that she and apparently all the world expected me to write. What does that mean? But it wasn't. Okay, whatever. Well, I couldn't write it. Not a blessed word. Something inside me refused to work, and there I was in a month or so. She began to ask about it. Nora, I thought, ought to turn them out while she waited. I walked up and down the park one afternoon, wondering what to tell her, and when I realized that either she would never understand or would despise me, I grew desperate. I wrote her a note full of fine passages about incompatibility, her unapproachable ideals, the soul's need of freedom, things she would understand and wear a heroic attitude about, and fled, and I came here. Of course, but didn't she follow you? Didn't they bother you? Not a bit. Nora preferred her lonely heroism. In a few months, I was quite forgotten. That was one of the healthful things I learned. Well, I was a wreck when I came here. I wanted to only lie down under a tree, and there it was under that tree. Yonder, my salvation came. Your salvation? Hunger. That was my salvation. Simple, elemental, unescapable appetite. You see, I had no servant, no one at all, so I had to get up and work to prepare my food. It was strange. Compared with this life, my life before had been like living in a locked box. Someone to do everything for me except think, and consequently I thought too much. But here the very fact of life was brought home to me. I spent weeks working about the house and grounds and on the common necessities. By the time winter came, on the place was by the time winter came on, the place was a brilliant fit to live in, and I was enjoying life. All the brilliance had faded away. I was as simple as a blade of grass. For a year I didn't write a word. I had the courage to wait for the real thing. Nobody pestering me to be a genius. Someday you may read that book. People said I had rediscovered the virtue of humility. I had. I will read it. And how much more will it mean to me now? I will read it. And how much more will it mean to me now? I suppose you know the theory about vibrations, how if a little push is given a bridge and repeated often enough at the right intervals, the bridge will fall. Yes. Well, that's the whole secret of what you have been looking for, what you found in my poems. I don't understand. A man's life is a rhythm. Eating, sleeping, working, playing, loving, thinking, everything. And when we live so that each activity comes at the right interval, we gain power. When one interrupts another, we lose. Weakness is merely the thrust of one impulse against another. Instead of their combined thrust against the world... Weakness is merely the thrust of one impulse against another, instead of their combined thrust against the world. When I came here, feeling like a criminal, I was obeying the one right instinct in a welter of emotions. I was like the faintest of heartbeats in a sick body. I listened to that. Then I learned physical hunger, then sleep, and so on. I really should have read this first, but I'm not doing it. I'm not doing another take.
Stay tuned, because you're on BENJILS Radio.
Now, I'm supposed to have a bit of a way with words, apparently, so they say, but I've been trying to describe the richness of Maxwell House, and it's a bit tricky. I mean, I could say that marvellous Max aroma gets your taste buds reveling in an orgy of richness, or I could say Max is a minor miracle of richness in a mug, or I could say Max, it's not just rich, it's positively well off.
Why use 50 words to describe Maxwell House when two say it all? Max richness.
Game over? No way! Because we got Game Genie! We tell you when it's over. With Game Genie, I decide how many lives I get. I use it when I want to live forever. Play to the end and win. Maybe I want to start on level 15. No problemo! It makes cool games like Street Fighter 2 more exciting. Less frustrating. With Game Genie, it ain't over. So we say it's over. Excellent!
Game Genie for NES, Super NES, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy. Codes from many popular games, each sold separately.
When I've got a Magnum, I suddenly get very possessive.
I go off on my own and nothing is going to disturb me. The bit I like best is when the chocolate cracks for the first time.
I just want to make it last, so I eat it very slowly.
I'll tell myself, come on, it's only an ice cream. But it isn't really.
I wouldn't share it.
Excuse me, do you remember your first dime? Aye. The first dime bar you ever had. Do you remember it? Aye. Dime bar? Dime bar? Hello? Well, thanks for joining us. Crisp butter almond and smooth milk chocolate. You never forget your first dime.
That bloke's a nutter. Oi, nutter!
And now here's more BENJILS Radio. I had to begin all over from the beginning, as if no one had ever lived before.
That's what you meant in your poems about religion.
Exactly. I learned that good is the rhythm of a man's personal nature, and that evil is merely the confusion of the same impulses. As the time went on, it became instinctive to live for and by the rhythm. Everything about my life here was caught up and used in this vision of power. Drawing water, cutting wood, digging in the garden, dawn. It was all marvelous. I couldn't help writing those poems. They are the natural joys and sorrows of 10 years. As a matter of fact, though, I grew to care less and less about writing as living became fuller and richer. People write too much. They would write less if they had to make the fire in the morning. They would write less if they had to make the fire in the morning.
The first impulse, I see. Oh, life might be so simple.
Why not? The animals have it. Men have it at times, but we make each other forget. If we could only be each other's reminders instead of forgetters.
Yes. But I see the only thing to do is to go away, like you.
Not necessarily. I was merely a bad case and required a desperate remedy. Earth and air and freedom from others' will. I need the country, but the next man might require the city as passionately. Don't imagine that he only hermits like me. Live instinctively. It can be done in New York, too. Only one mustn't be so sensitive to others. After all, friend, we were wrong in saying that this power lies outside of the world of skyscrapers and business. It doesn't lie outside nor inside. It cuts across everything. Do you see? For it's all a matter of a man's own soul. Then we can't live in a vacuum. The more you feel the force, the more you must act. The more you can act. The more you feel the force, the more you must act. The more you can act. And in the long run, it doesn't matter what you do. If you do what your own instinct bids. And in the long run, it doesn't matter what you do if you do what your own instinct bids.
Then I could stay right in the midst of it.
Yes. And if you were thinking of writing poetry, it might even be better to stay in the midst of it. Drama, you know. It's time for new drama.
It isn't that with me. I can't write. I had one splendid teacher. He used to talk about things writing. Jesus. It isn't that. With me, I can't write. I had one splendid teacher. He used to talk about things right in class. He said that most educated people think that intellect is a matter of making fine distinctions, of seeing as two separate points with that unintelligent world. What am I reading? Okay, let me try again. He said that most educated people think that intellect is a matter of making fine distinctions, of seeing as two separate points what the unintelligent would believe was one point, but that this idea was finicky. He wanted us to see that intelligence might also be a matter of seeing the connection between two things so far apart that most people would think they were always separate. I don't like where this is going. I think that it made education mean something, because it made it depend on imagination instead of grubbing. And then he told us about the history of our subject, grammar, how it began as poetry, when every word was an original creation, and then became philosophy, as people had to arrange speech with thought, and then science with more or less exact laws. I could see it. The thing became alive, and he said all knowledge passed through the same stages, and there isn't anything that can't eventually be made scientific. That made me think a good deal. I wondered if somebody couldn't work out a way of preventing anybody from being poor. It seemed so unnecessary with so much work being done. That's what I want to do, thanks to you.
Here's Rex. Rex, know my good friend. I know you will like him. Rex always cares for the people I do, don't you, Rex?
Of course. I see one thing. It's the people nearest one that make the most difference. Mother now, she will understand. You don't believe in marrying, though, do you?
I certainly do.
But I thought...
You thought because I left one woman and hadn't found another that I didn't care for women? Others believe that too, but it isn't so. On the contrary, you see, I didn't so much leave her as get away from my own failure. Of course, there is such a thing as the wrong woman. She makes a man a fraction. The better she is in herself, the less she leaves him to live by. 1/20 is less than 1/2, but the right woman, she multiplies a man.
Oh.
Why, you might have told from my poems how I believe in love.
I don't remember any love poems.
Bless your heart. Every one of them was a love poem, not the old-fashioned kind about fading roses and tender hearts. I sent that book out as a cry for the mate, and it changed with the fullness of love. That's why I could write about trees and storms.
I suppose if I had been older,
it isn't one's age, but one's need. She will understand. Look, the sun has gone round the corner of the house. Is that lunch you have in your parcel?
Yes.
Would you like to make it a picnic? I'll get something from house, and we can walk to the woods.
I'd love to.
All right, I'll be ready in no time. Come, Rex. They're going to go have a picnic in the woods.
What, this came out in 1916? That's like in the middle of World War I. Huh. When did airplanes become a thing? That was like 1911, 1912, 1910? I don't know. Interesting play. Back then you just go there, be like, oh, there's a guy that lives in the woods. Let me go talk to him. Now it's like you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, who's this guy living in the woods? Well, anyway. All right, that's enough playtime.